If there's one thing Mercedes knows how to do, it's to create big, luxurious SUVs. And the GLS, well, that's always been its flagship. And that brings us to this. It's the brand new GLS, recently revised for 2024, introducing a range of new features which aim to make this even more comfortable than ever before. Now, this is a competitive segment, but is this recently revised GLS the car to take the fight to the BMW X7, for example? Well, that's what we're going to be finding out in today's video. Mercedes hasn't completely torn up the rulebook with the look of the new GLS, but to differentiate against the predecessor, you'll have to go to the nose of the car. There's a brand new grille here, and I think it makes the GLS look a little bit sharper than it did before. Around the back there are new lights too, and they integrate a 3-bar design which looks particularly striking at night, which, let's be honest, is the only time you're going to see them. Obviously, as the tip-top Mercedes SUV, you expect a lot from the GLS, and it's largely received well in terms of the material quality and the build quality that you've got in here. So we've got this nice real wood up top and some leather underneath with proper stitching, and that combines with these satin finished metal elements, well, plastic elements, to help create a cabin which feels both luxurious and well made. I also like the fact that you've got these grab handles on the side, which is a bit of a nod to a more traditional G-Wagon setup. In terms of technology, we've got this big widescreen display here, which actually feels quite conservative by modern Mercedes standards when you compare it to other cars we've checked out on the channel, such as the new C-Class or even the EQE SUV. That said, it's got loads of features, and it's reasonably easy to navigate thanks to this trackpad in the middle, though I would like some better shortcut buttons because the ones down here are just a little bit too small, and because they're mounted low in the car, they're too low to look at while you're driving. They're too distracting, so that would be nice. However, you've also got this nice steering wheel with multifunction controls, but as I've mentioned on other Mercedes models, it's too easy when you're positioned in car or parking to accidentally press one of them and take you off into a menu that you didn't want to go. However, the overall impression you get from the GLS is one of high quality, and as a car costing well over £100,000, you'd kind of expect it to. The rear seats are where you're going to be wanting to spend a lot of time in the GLS because they are very comfortable. This version in particular is a business class GLS, which means it gets a load of comfort-focused features to make those longer journeys even more enjoyable. For instance, we've got this large central armrest, which, as well as incorporating a wireless charging pad for your smartphone, also has a detachable tablet which just pops out like that and gives you control of the screens ahead of you. So you can watch whatever you like, you can connect to your phone, or you can control various elements of the car as well. You also get these really comfortable headrests, and that's something I've always found on top spec Mercedes models, is the headrests are superb. And there's just loads of legroom. You've got massage functions too, and electric adjustability to the side. They're also heated and vented. In terms of a high-end luxurious experience, the GLS really hits the nail on the head here. Obviously, aside from the very luxurious middle row, you do have the addition of 2 seats in the back of the GLS, making this a full 7-seater. Now, all of the seats are electronically operated too, so you can raise or lower them via seats buttons on the sides or in the boot. And as I found, I think physical ones are just a little bit easier because, for one, they don't go wrong as often, and 2, they're just a little bit more intuitive to use and quicker as well. But once you are sat back here, there's a decent amount of space. I'm quite surprised by the amount of room I've got for my feet, actually. There's plenty of room under the seat ahead of me, and though this chair ahead has had to sit a little bit more upright in order to get my knees and legs in, once I am here, there's quite a decent amount of space. The seat, it must be said, in the middle row is moved back so that I would have enough room to sit there comfortably, and that still means that I've got enough room back here without feeling too squashed in. I would say that since the panoramic sunroof finishes here as well, it feels a little bit cocooned and a little bit darker in the very back of the car. But we do have 2 USB-C charging points for devices. Overall, you do also have a nice elevated view of the cabin too. Everything inside the GLS is controlled by switches and buttons, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. Good because it means you don't have to fuss around with any levers, but bad because it seems to take an awfully long time to make the seats go exactly where you want to. But even when they're all in place, you've still got 340 litres of boot space as standard, and that's big enough for a standard carry-on suitcase or some softer luggage or plenty of shopping. Now, if you want to extend that further, of course, you can lower all of the seats down, expanding the area quite considerably with each row of seats that you fold away. If you head on underneath this boot floor too, you find actually a very impressive amount of storage space, which, as well as a breakdown kit, just has some additional luggage area, which will no doubt come in useful in a car as large as this. One of the core engine offerings that you're going to get on the GLS is the one in this car. It's a 3-litre turbocharged diesel engine, and boy, is it a great fit for the GLS. Now, Mercedes have equipped it with mild hybrid technology in order to boost the efficiency of this engine, and in fact you could see around 32 mpg in during my time with the car. I've been seeing about 30, so I think on a long run those claim figures are pretty much spot on, and that's not bad for a car of this size, and particularly when you're all going to be loaded up with kit and equipment, then I think this type of engine makes way more sense than having a large petrol. It's a very refined setup, and the engine has more than enough punch. In fact, it'll get you from 0 to 60 miles an hour in just under 6 seconds, which is pretty speedy, particularly for a large capacity diesel. But I like the fact that you're not really getting any downside. It's still doing great numbers in terms of MPG. We're riding on air suspension too, and you can change the ride height depending on the mood or where you're heading using a little toggle switch down here, which is very useful. The only thing I've found is that at low speeds, the GLS can feel just quite unsettled. It's those large wheels just struggling to deal with the overall weight and size of the car. So going over potholes and just when you're getting a little bit of off camber, it just feels like it's not entirely happy. Once you're up to speed, it's absolutely fine. And this car feels like something that would absolutely devour long distance trips. I think if you're heading to the south of France or down to Spain, this car is going to be one of the ones you're going to want to do it in. The steering is pretty lifeless, but that's kind of what we expect. It's light though, so manoeuvring it at slower speeds isn't all that tricky. The one thing I will say is that the assistance systems are very intrusive. So the lane keep assist or the lane steering assist that I've had on this car, I'm really struggling to try and switch it off, and it keeps pulling me away from the area of the road that I want to be in, particularly when I'm driving on country roads like we're filming on today. It just doesn't feel like I'm completely in control, which is a little bit disconcerting, particularly in a car this big. Visibility isn't too bad. With the headrests in the back lowered, I've got a good view out the back, but you need to make sure that you've done that as well, as they can start intruding into your vision. And these forward pillars are nice and slim too, so when I'm approaching a roundabout, it's not too bad, even though the wing mirrors are quite large. Mercedes will offer the GLS with a petrol engine, but I do just think for most people this diesel is going to be the go-to choice. This diesel just feels like such a good fit for this engine, and I know in this day and age diesel, we're not really meant to talk about it, we're meant to be getting away from it, but in these big heavy cars, getting the best efficiency out of them is only really ever achieved with a nice diesel engine, and this 3-litre is a lovely thing indeed. Naturally, in a car as big as the GLS, you can't ask it too much. In the corners, bless it, it's a big car, so it's not designed to go around bends on the door handles, but it gets around them in a smart enough fashion. There's a little bit of lean and there's a little bit of body roll as to be expected, again, from a car of this size. It's not a Lotus Elise, it's not a Caterham, it's not designed to go around corners as quickly as possible. It's meant to get around them nice and comfortably, and that's just what it does. I do think that the whole car gets better with speed. At lower speeds, it just feels like it's picking up too many imperfections from the road. And then when you gain a bit of pace, it just all settles down and the weight becomes less of a problem. Road and wind noise are both very nicely suppressed, as you'd expect in a car like this kind of luxury element of the segment, and I'm not getting too much disturbance from any of those areas which could cause you a bit of a problem. So the engine is very hushed under the bonnet, and again, despite being very upright and very bluff at the front, we're just not getting any kind of wind resistance, which is excellent. And again, that makes it more comfortable and easier to live with over long distance journeys. But as you can see, I'm just getting quite a lot of head toss as I'm going over those lumps and bumps in the road. That's the only major niggle with the GLS, is that it just sometimes feels like it can't quite handle with its own size and weight. As we found in other Mercedes models, the 8-speed automatic gearbox that we've got in the GLS is perfectly suited to shifting nice and smoothly. You can take controls with these steering mounted paddles, but I think by the fact that they are so tiny, even Mercedes is saying, well, maybe you don't have to change gears yourself. Maybe this is the sort of car, well, you're just going to leave the gearbox to do it. And in fairness, that's what I've been doing all the time. I just let the gearbox get on with it. I suppose if you are towing or if you're dragging a boat behind you, then having a little bit of control over those gears could prove useful, but in normal driving, I think you're just going to leave it in auto mode and just let it do its thing, in which case it does its thing very, very well. As far as luxury travel goes, the GLS is right up there. It feels really nicely made inside and has loads of those touches to make it quite a special way of getting from A to B. However, it's backed up by loads of practicality too. Of course, it has 7 dedicated seats, and with those rear seats folded down, it's got a huge amount of load space to play with, which means that even though you might not usually think of it in that way, it can take that tip run on the weekend. Throw in an efficient diesel engine with plenty of punch, and you have a package which really does put it quite a lot above the rivals in the segment. Of course, it does come with a strong price tag, and at over £125,000, this GLS is definitely not for those looking to shop on a budget, but if you do have the means, then this is one attractive and very well-rounded 7-seater. Thank you for watching this Motors new car review on the Mercedes GLS. Now, what do you think of the features inside this 7-seater? Are they cool or are they a little bit chintzy? Let us know in the comment section. And if you have enjoyed this video, please leave us a like below. Plus, if you subscribe to the Motors YouTube channel and hit that bell icon, you'll get a notification each time one of our reviews goes live.